Well, hello there. This is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. And tonight I am going to be talking about, were you taught to look weak or strong? Why? And are you still impacted? Tune in and share. I want this to be a very participatory, participative, participle.
I was thinking of participle.
Okay, so you better come onto the show because if there's nobody here, there's no one to participate. So anyway, while we are gathering, let me introduce you to sweet baby James, who is going to introduce you to our show.
Welcome to Granny Rocks Our World, which also stands for GROW, which takes place every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this time, 6:30 to 6:45 Pacific time. And this is our opportunity to hear the wisdom, the wit, and the uncommon sense of Granny Rocks. So, Granny, over to you.
Hello. Well, first I would like to greet Erica, who has said that she's here. So that means present and ready to go. And Amy says, hi, you two, in some situations to look weak and in others strong. She's already answering. So that's good. So promises to be a very lively show. So I would like to share with you that obviously there is going to be a lot of differences, and it would be very helpful to mention your demographic. For example, if you are a Black man who's 85, you may have been taught to look weak as to not be threatening, or you may have been taught to look strong so that nobody is going to demolish you. But that's maybe more likely if you were born, and you're only 24. Or it's the same thing with women. I mean, maybe if you were my age, you were taught to look weak, and maybe if you see, but you can tell that I'm white, and that I know that it's hard to tell that I'm white, but you can, if you really strain, you can tell that I'm white and that I am aged. So, maybe younger women don't have this; they're taught something else. So it'll be really interesting if people will sort of acknowledge something about themselves when they share about how they were taught to look. So while we're gathering our forces, let me say I'd like to share a little bit about what I went through. Okay, Amy says, I know I was pretty vague about that. I was taught to look weak when it came to being smarter than the other students. I was told I would ruin the curve. Oh, that's cute. Okay, so I am going to start by talking about my upbringing. I was of the age, right? And my mother, who was a very smart woman, way smarter than my dad. Everybody knew she was smarter than my dad. Hello, Tracy. Tracy said hello, and she has a little heart there, so we're going to do the heart back. Do you see the topic where you taught to look weak or strong? Why? And are you still impacted? Tune in and share. So we're expecting participation tonight. And we want you to sort of identify yourself demographically because that could be interesting for the share. So my mother, who is extremely smart, she told me, and I kid you not, many times, she said, never let a man see how smart you are. Now, I don't know why she said that. Everybody knew how smart she was. And my father certainly knew how smart she was.
Well, she was already married.
Right, exactly. So I think my father wanted a woman who was smart because then he felt more secure. But anyway, I thought, yes, this is like they used to teach us in the olden days, and I hope it's not like, you put your hair in curlers at night. The marvelous Mrs. Maisel, she put her hair in curlers at night, and then she got up early and took off her makeup and, undid her curlers in the morning so nobody would ever see. So her husband wouldn't see what she really was looking like in the middle of the night, that he'd never see what she looked like. So it's kind of ridiculous, but it really was like that in my day and age, that women were told not to look smart and not to look strong. You see, that's important too. You're not supposed to look strong because you don't want to intimidate the guys. So it's like the thing with the curlers. So I guess that means that you hook the guy, you get married, and then the day after the wedding, you get up and you say, by the way, honey, I told you I was unemployed, but actually I'm teaching astrophysics at Harvard this year. but I didn't want to tell you. So Hello, Debbie. She says hi to both of you. Leaving for work, so we'll have to catch this later. Love this topic. Oh, we won't be able to hear your response. I want to know about you, Debbie. Well, put it in a comment, please, because I want to know how you fit into this paradigm. I was never told not to look strong because I wasn't. So there really wasn't any way that I could look strong, that I could intimidate anybody. So that was really, and on the other hand, a lot of men growing up were taught not to look weak.
That was
Right.
me. That was me.
Right.
Don't let your
Don't-
guard down.
That's right.
Don't show weakness, they'll exploit it.
Don't cry. But also, so a guy, let's say you have a little financial weakness, you don't tell your wife to be those minor details. You say, oh yes, my income is in the triple digits.
Can you dig it?
But you don't mention the fact that the IRS has been after you and is about to swoop down and take away your favorite pair of slippers because you have nothing left to lose, because that's going to make you look weak. And what woman is going to want a weak man, and what man is going to want a strong woman? Isn't this idiotic? I mean, does anybody think this is idiotic other than me and sweet baby James? And evidently Amy thinks it's idiotic too. So, so depending on your race, depending on your gender, depending on the times, you know, what the society is like, you may have been taught to look weak or strong, just look that way, right? And are you still being impacted? So, is there anyone who would like to start sharing? So I'm going to sit here and see. Tracy said, I agree. I'm assuming that you're agreeing to the idea that we're getting these different messages. So what do you agree with, Tracy? And why don't you tell us what's your demographic and what were you taught? And are you still being impacted? I know there is a time delay. We have an unusually small number of people live tonight. I mean, a really unusual. We usually have way more people live. That's only because somebody picked it up in the ethers that I was going to ask you to participate. Well, okay. Tracy says, I was taught to be obedient and nice. So would that be considered not smart, or is that to look weak? Were you taught to look weak?
Yeah, it sounds like weak to me. If you're taught to be obedient, that means somebody else, you're obeying somebody else.
And would you like to share your demographic with us, Tracy? Because I'd like to see if there's any younger people out there, whether they were taught the same things we old folks were taught. So give us an idea of your age range, your ethnic, whatever, right? In the meantime, I could sing. Okay, I am going to try to take up the space. Okay, so let's ask the question, and we're still waiting to hear from Tracy about her demographic. And I'm hoping that some of you will come on and answer my question: were you taught to look weak or strong, especially in relationship? You know, and one of the things that, oh, Tracy says, I am in my 40s, white, and yes, was taught to look weak. Isn't that amazing? In your 40s, I'm in my 70s. You know, I would have thought that this would have gone out a long time ago. And Amy says, I was taught, or at least learned, and that's a really good distinction, that if I wanted financial and emotional support, I needed to look weak and incompetent. I am Caucasian and 65 years old. Yes, the damsel in distress. I love that. So we're having people from, you know, somewhat different age groups who are women. The only people who are responding now are women. And, you know, are you still impacted? Oh, yes. You know, one of the interesting questions about this is, supposing you're in a same-sex relationship. You know what I'm saying? If women are taught to look weak, then two women looking weak, or does one take on I'm the one who's strong, and you know what, all this nonsense, right? So do you feel, you guys who are participating, and I appreciate that you are, Do you feel like you're still being impacted? When I think about myself, because I have to take up space until we get other answers. When I think about myself, I think I am impacted, even though never in my life did I actually try to act stupid to make a man feel better. But I certainly was aware that looking smart did not make men feel good. Okay, Tracy says, I am still impacted by this as I struggle with being assertive. I love that. Look at that. That worm that was dropped into your psyche 40 some odd years ago is still working its way through. Erica says, I'm white, 65, and I learned that it's good to be smart, but that my older brothers would feel threatened by it. So that's some interesting mixed message, isn't it, Erica? It's good. You're supposed to be smart, but other people are going to be threatened. Well, yes. And so I'm going to bounce this ball back to you while, if you can comment again, is like, how did it impact you knowing that your older brothers were going to feel threatened? And that's exactly what I experienced in my life. That, yes, I was supposed to be smart. And Erica says she is still impacted. And tell us how you still feel impacted by this, Erica. I know that it was confusing because I'm like you, Erica. I learned that it's good to be smart, but I wasn't supposed to show it in front of men. I mean, what was I supposed to walk around with a paper bag over my head? What was I supposed to do? And I did have that experience over and over and over and over of men not liking it. And I think what it did, it made me more angry and more competitive. So I wanted to smash their little faces, just because I felt like they were trying to suppress me. That really did not bring out the loving part of me. So, okay, Mary Chris said, hi, Granny. Hi, Mary Chris. You're in the conversation. Everybody's in this conversation. Were you taught to look weak or strong? Why? And are you still impacted? Tune in and share. And so we've been hearing from mostly women so far who were either taught to be weak and, yes, are still impacted, or who were told, like Erica, that it's good to be strong, but it's going to threaten people. So you already know that in advance. And Erica says, still afraid that my viewpoints don't hold weight. Now, how does your viewpoints don't hold weight connect to you being taught that it's good to be smart, but your brothers will be threatened by that? So you think about that. And Amy says, that's what I learned too, Beth, that men won't like me if I'm smart. That's right. And that actually was reinforced by experience. Even if I worked for somebody and I was his secretary or his assistant, because in those days it was always the man. I mean, it's unbelievable. It wasn't that long ago. You would think that I was part of the women's suffrage movement, but actually I was born in 1945, right? And so somebody would hire me because I was smart, but never wanted me to be smarter than him. So every once in a while, I would get somebody who was humble about his grammar, and he'd say, well, you fix the letter. Or eventually they would say, would you just write to them and tell them such and such, or whatever it is? And they began to relax into it. But there was always that feeling of tension that somehow or other they had to continue to feel like they were on top of things. So Erica, are you still thinking? Anyone else? Mary Chris, you've identified that you are here. What about you? What were you taught to look like? And Sweet Baby James was talking about the fact that he was taught to look strong, that most men want to look strong, and that means they have to pretend they have more money than they have, more potency than they have, a better job than they have, more physical strength than they have, something, right?
Yeah, we had to be strong in the competition. Competing for grades, competing in sports, we had to win and be dominant.
Right. So you're actually talking about, and that is a very good subject about with other men, but I'm actually, and I didn't say this, but I'm actually referring more to in relationships, either with women or with men, depending on, did
Well,
you feel?
Not long before I met you, I had always been with women who were weaker than me,
Or who looked
or
weaker
who
than
looked
you,
weaker than me.
or who wanted to look weaker than you, or who wanted to look not as smart as you.
And,
Oh my God.
and I've changed quite a bit since I've been with you, because I've acclimated to being with a strong, smart woman.
I just realized
And I've relaxed into it.
that it's 6:45. I mean, I was supposed to be shutting up already, and here I am worrying about who else is going to share when we are actually running out of time. So, are we impacted? You better believe we're impacted.
Oh, look at Mary Chris's comment.
Oh, what did she say? I was told to be smart and strong, but was rewarded for being weak. Oh my, that's interesting. So you got that mixed message like Erica did. I was told to be smart and strong, but was rewarded for being weak. See, I was told to look weak and not so smart, but I was rewarded for being smart.
Yeah.
Because the society rewarded me. I got advanced in school, and my mother was proud of me and all of that. So even though she tells me, so that's kind of interesting, Mary Chris. So she's telling me that she does that I shouldn't look too smart, but she's thrilled when anybody thinks I am. Oh, Erica says, I just go quiet and avoid. So you don't have to deal with that conflict between wanting to look smart and being afraid of the reaction to it. So that could be paralyzing. That is a very interesting point that you just made, and I think it's true. So I'm glad that you saw that. So yes, we are still impacted by this program. I had hoped, and Mary Chris, your demographic is you're not in your 20s either, I gather. Maybe when people comment, okay, Amy said, oh, Tracy said, I learned it was good to be smart, but still had to obey the authority. Now, how insane is that? Now, talk about another mixed message, right? It's good for you to be smart, but don't use your intelligence to actually challenge anything. And Amy said, I had two sets of messages. To be smart when I had a bat mitzvah in the 1960s. Girls had exactly the same ceremonies, which is very cool. A bat mitzvah is the female equivalent of a bar mitzvah, which is for boys when they were 13. And being in the 60s, it felt egalitarian, where that was not the case in most other places. And then only in my 20s, I was allowed to edit a professor's articles for the New York Times. So you were supposed to be smart there, because then your smartness was going to make him look smart. Oh, that's important. If your smartness makes them look smart, you may be allowed to be smart or look smart, but only internally, like you're the ghost thinker. And Erica said, thank you for asking. You're welcome, Erica. We're so glad that you nailed that. And Tracy said, haha, right. Don't use my intelligence. Exactly. Right. Have intelligence, but don't use it. Oh, darn. Elizabeth and Todd just joined, but we are actually at the end of our show. So what I'd like you guys to do is to listen to this show. And I know a lot of people are going to be tuning in later. Everybody's out partying, I guess. Is it Friday night?
It is Friday.
Oh, it's Friday night in the big town. So leave your comments and share with us whether you were taught to look weak or strong, especially in relationship to a potential mate, whether that mate be same sex or opposite sex or whatever. Todd said, sorry, Facebook keeps freezing up on me. Oh, gosh. Well, you tell it that to cut it out. Because we want you to participate. But you can still participate later. Tell us your demographic, like in anybody in their 20s. Are they still getting the same nonsensical messages that we got? People who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, or 70s or 80s, or are you getting different messages? And are those messages just as damaging? I mean, you may have grown up at a period where women are supposed to look strong all the time. That isn't any better. How about being ourselves? But anyway, that's a whole other topic. So comment your brains out. Share with us if there's something. It'll be good to share. And if there's
It's okay to show us you're smart.
that's right, or not.
Or
That's
not.
okay too. And if there's something particularly interesting and juicy, we'll bring it up next time, which is Monday on Granny Rocks Our World. And thank you to those of you who came to our live stream last night, which didn't happen, but it did happen 3 hours late. Tracy said, thanks, Granny, and sweet baby James. You're very welcome, Tracy. And thank you for being here. And so 3 hours later, we actually live stream. So if you come to Facebook, you will see Dreams of Peace, improvisational piano music that is nurturing to the soul. And so listen, like it if you like it. Don't say anything hateful, please. Share it, pass it on. And next Thursday, join us too. And there's growth and all kinds of stuff. Look at our events and do come back to grow on Monday. Mary Krista, thank you, Granny and SPJ.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Oh,
Lots of hearts.
got so many hearts. Thank you so much. Love you. Don't forget to share, like, and do all those good things. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.